Hey there, beer hunters! Welcome to another episode of the Beer Huntress. I hope you're all exceptionally well. My name's Jo and I'm the manageress of a bar in Wigan called Wigan Central, and we are all about the beer. That's exactly why I'm here for you this evening. I'm here to review a beer for you. But I don't know what it's going to be yet, so that's why we turn to the Wheel of Styles, hashtag made by John, and this is going to pick what style we're going to be having tonight. Once I pick the style, I'm going to pick the beer from there, tell you a little bit about the history of the style, a bit of the history of the brewery, and then we'll do the tasting notes. So, I'm very thirsty, so let's just crack on, shall we? Let's spin the wheel and find out what I'm drinking tonight. Traditional. I've got a lot to choose from. I think I fancy a barley wine. Let's ramp up the ABV. So we landed on traditional and I decided I fancied a barley wine this evening. I did say I was thirsty. And so I've gone for Lervig, and this is their Paragon, which is a 2019 bourbon barrel aged barley wine, and it's at 13.5%. I would just like to thank Barry McCarthy for this. He gifted it to me at Christmas. He's one of our followers and he knows how much I like my barley wines, and we always say hashtag barley wine is life, and it most certainly is. So Lervig is a Norwegian brewery that started out in between 2003 and 2005 in Stavanger. And it originally was associated with the Tau brewery, but Tau beer was moved in 2003 to Oslo. And when the Lervig started producing their own particular beers, it was pretty much a replica of the Tau Pilsner that was being done at the time. And they carried on in this manner until about 2010, when they hired an American craft beer brewer called Mike Murphy. And he influenced them and turned them completely around towards craft beers. Since then, Lervig's been hugely recognised for their imperial stouts, their massive high ABV beers, their real dank and juicy New England IPAs, and of course, their vintage barley wine, which we're going to be doing today. Lervig was actually featured as one of the top 100 breweries on Rate Beer's list in 2014, which is quite an accolade to get. And I'm not surprised, because everything I've had from these guys, especially their imperial stuff, is absolutely top notch. They are an amazing brewer, and I'm super excited to be trying this. This is their Paragon 2019. It's a barley wine ale, and it is aged in bourbon barrels for more than a year. It's actually a blend, this particular version, and it sits at 13.5%, so quite a strong one. Strong ales, such as barley wines, are considered to be the inspiration for the Belgian strong dark ale that we all know and love today. And the concept of the barley wine has been available well before the term itself was actually coined. They originally were called malt wines or malt liquors, but it wasn't until the early 1900s that barley wine term was actually coined, and the first was Bass No. 1, which is from Bass Brewery, which is in Burton-upon-Trent. By the way, they also had the first ever registered trademark, which is their little triangular symbol that we all know. Prior to Burton and Bass itself being well regarded for their IPAs, which we all know them for nowadays, they were producing something called Burton Ales. And Burton Ales is like the younger sister of the barley wine. A Burton Ale or barley wine is considered to be an extremely strong ale. It's generally dark in colour, not necessarily black, but using brown malt. We've got a lot of fruit flavours coming through. There's definitely a candied feel to it and heavy booziness to it as well. And so moving on from the Burton Ale, the barley wine was born, and this is what we're going to enjoy. Generally, the barley wine is the strongest beer that a brewery will produce, unless they start messing around with freeze distilling and things such as that. It's not always a vintage such as this one, but barrel aging is generally favoured when it comes to producing barley wines in order to be able to impart additional flavour into it. Now, for over 2,000 years, we've been using wooden barrels in the process of producing any kind of alcoholic beverage, whether or not that's beer, wine, spirit, production, etc. But barrel aging impacts the beer in several different ways. The first way it does so is by imparting an oak or smoke or vanilla flavour coming directly from the wood itself. Secondly, you have oxidative flavours that are imparted, which can develop either into really interesting flavours or really unpopular ones. But when it's done well, it can impart sherry-like notes to it. When it's done badly, it can taste a little bit like wet cardboard or wet paper. Not something particularly pleasant, quite musty. But when it's done well, you can get some really, really gorgeous kind of boozy notes out of the wood itself from the oxidisation. And then thirdly, you've got the flavour imparted from whatever was in the barrel before the beer was added. Whether or not this be bourbon, whether it's whiskey, whether it's sherry, whether it's wine, it makes no difference. This is going to have a massive impact upon the flavour of any particular beer because it's going to add that additional extra flavour profile to it. Regarding using bourbon barrels, which this one is using, it's actually quite an easy decision to make for a lot of brewers to use bourbon barrels. And this is because the process of producing bourbon, you're only supposed to use new casks or new wooden barrels, as it were. So you can only put them in new oak. And this means that there's plenty of used bourbon barrels that are being left over and being sent off to different breweries all across for them to pick up and age their beers into. So this particular blend is a mixture of their 2017 edition that they still had a few barrels left over, their spring 2019 and their autumn 2019 vintage as well, and they put a little bit of their 2020 in there in order to be able to balance out and get the smoothest they could from this particular version. All of the beers that they used to blend this particular version are all bourbon barrel aged, and they come from various different bourbon styles. So you have some from Heaven Hill, some from Angel's Envy, and even a few thrown in from Wild Turkey as well. This year's version isn't about a big bourbon character, however, even though they do reference bourbon quite a lot in the tasting notes about it. It is supposed to be more about the subtle bourbon characteristics, but pushing forward the concept of the barley wine a lot more. So we're going to be looking at something that's going to be a lot boozier. We're going to get a lot more dried figs, raisins, vanilla, all that kind of thing coming through, with the bourbon sat underneath as a sideline and just adding a little bit of booziness and a bit of depth. So, shall we crack open the box and take a look at the beer? Okay. I do love a good boxed up beer. Take a look at that box there, that's amazing. Not very much other information on it, just this really bright colour. And here we go. That fully waxed, wax seal. So we're going to have a bit of fun with me opening this in a little while. Yeah, check out this artwork. We've got this grotesque character that always seems to feature in Lervig stuff. And he's opening up his stomach and all these gorgeous colours are coming out. Real, you know, optical feel behind this this beer. A little bit of info on the back, not an awful lot. Yeah, really bright, vibrant and gorgeous. Love it. So let's crack this wax. Got no wax in my actual beer itself. There's anything hiding underneath this wax seal, because sometimes they do. No, nothing, just a best before date. How do you put best before date on a barley wine? I have absolutely no idea. But yeah, just Lervig symbol and best before date. Its best before date is 2030, so I think I've got time. Right. Oof. Barley wine colour. Deep, dark brown with beautiful red hue. Very, very light little bit of head. Hardly any head to that at all. Touch of carbonation going on there. Just ever so slight. But I can smell, I can smell treacle toffee, molasses, even before we get it even closer in. Gorgeous. I don't know about you, but there's certain beers that I drink that there's two things in the world that give me goosebumps. One's the cold and the other one's bloody good beer. And sometimes you can smell a beer and it gives you goosebumps all over. This has done that for me. It smells amazing, and that was from a distance. I'm going for the kill. I can just smell it. I'm not even going to drink it, I'm just going to smell it. It's caramelized sugar, cinder toffee, really juicy dates, fig rolls and raisins, and definitely a bit of biscuitiness going on to it, but it's like yeah, it's really intense, like a almost like the bottom of a tiramisu, you know, that kind of thing where you're getting that kind of little bit of that biscuity note, but or that spongy note, but it's baked in alcohol. I just could just smell it. Right, I need to drink some, Joanna. Here we go. Ah, that's complex. And the bourbon is subtle. It's like treacle toffee, liquid treacle. Just get a tin of treacle and just spoon it out. It's this gorgeous bourbon kick at the front. It's really, really nice boozy warmth just at the front, as well as this really nice warmth on the finish as well, but it's all the centre that's got all this complexity of flavours. There's definitely figs going on, there's raisins in there, fruit cake kind of thing. Everything's been basked in alcohol, it's been candied, and it's been sugared, and it's been covered in so much caramel. Every sip's like just liquid perfection. So beautiful. It's really smooth. For 13.5%, although I know it's boozy and I can taste the depth and I can taste the booze and I can taste the warmth and the alcohol warmth, it's super smooth. It's really, really nicely balanced. You don't get any kind of astringency, no burnt flavours to it, no kind of like really harsh alcohol burn. It's super, super smooth. Like a really, really well-made whiskey. Well-made sherry, I suppose, closer to that. But that bourbon is super subtle and it's all up front. All the rest of it is this intense, dark, heavy, dark fruit flavour. You know, that really candied orange peel, that dried raisins, that juicy dates, that fig roll thing going on. Absolutely stunning. Really is stunning. I can tell why it gave me goosebumps on the smell. My gosh, giving me goosebumps on the back of my throat. Definitely a sipping beer. I've done it about, it's just below room temperature for me. It's recommended about 8 degrees, but I think 8 degrees this would have killed it off. For me, I popped it just below room temperature and the flavour's just divine. Really, really nice. So just moreish. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed drinking this beer. Boy, have I enjoyed drinking this beer. If you've been lucky enough to have this, then please let me know in the comments what you thought of it. It's certainly a winner for me. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this bad boy, take my time with it, and I shall see you next time. Cheers. If you enjoyed this video, guys, then please like, subscribe and share it with your friends. Hit that notifications button to get alerts when our new video is out. We're also on Facebook, Twitter and on Instagram, so check out the links in the description and follow us on there as well. If there's anything you'd like to see us review, please pop it in the comments and we'll pop it in the pump for later. Keep wadge banking and I shall see you all next time for another episode of The Beer Huntress.